Welcome back this evening. You've made it through another long day, and now the sky is quietly folding itself into night. This is the hour when the light softens, when even the air seems to slow down enough to listen. There's nowhere you need to be right now. Just here. Just resting. Tonight's story is called The Staircase in the Clouds. It's about a place that might exist only between thoughts, a path that rises without hurry and disappears into mist. Some say it leads upward forever. Others say it simply loops back to where you began. Either way, the climb is gentle, and there's no need to reach the top. So find your quiet spot. Let your shoulders settle, your breath drift slow. If your mind wants to wander, let it. Sometimes peace is found not in stillness, but in the slow rhythm of moving nowhere in particular. Let's begin. It began with a hill that shouldn't have been there. I'd walked this path before, through open fields that rolled gently toward the horizon, but today, the ground rose where it never had. The slope was smooth, covered in soft grass that rippled in slow waves with the wind. There was no sound except the faint hum of air moving, the kind that feels older than words. And at the crest of the hill, the clouds seemed to be resting lower than usual, heavy and kind. I climbed without thinking much about it. Each step pressed lightly into the earth, and when I looked back, there were no footprints, as though the ground had decided not to remember me. At the top, the world looked distant and small. The clouds gathered in soft layers, folding into one another like linen sheets being drawn across the sky. And there, standing in the middle of them, was a staircase. It wasn't made of stone or wood, more like light that had been given shape. Each step glowed faintly, pale as moonlight on water. The air around it shimmered, bending just enough to make the edges blur. There were no railings, no supports, no shadow beneath it. It just rose upward, steady and patient, vanishing into the clouds. I stood there for a while, unsure whether to trust my eyes. The staircase didn't feel like an invitation, but it didn't feel like a warning either. It simply existed, waiting, the way a river waits to be crossed. And something in me, some quiet part that had been resting too long, decided to move. So I placed a hand on the first step. It wasn't cold or warm. It felt like touching the edge of a thought, something that barely held its shape until you believed in it. I lifted my foot and stepped up. The surface gave a little, like mist under pressure, then steadied. When I shifted my weight, it held. A faint hum ran through the air, not mechanical, not alive, just steady, like breathing. I took another step, and then another. The ground began to fall away beneath me, replaced by slow-moving vapor that glowed faintly from within. Looking down, I saw the hill dissolving into haze as though it had never existed. There was no fear, no rush of height or danger, just the quiet certainty that I was no longer walking on earth. Somewhere above, the light shifted, not brighter, just softer, like dawn deciding to stay a little longer before breaking. And for the first time, I realized how still everything had become. Even my heartbeat seemed to have slowed to match the rhythm of the climb. Step after step, the air grew thinner, cooler, clearer, until the world below became nothing more than a dream I was slowly waking from. The higher I climbed, the quieter it became. The sound of the wind faded first, then the hum of the staircase itself, until only my breathing remained, slow and even, matching the rhythm of the steps. Each one felt both solid and weightless, like walking on the memory of something that had once been real. I tried looking back, but the hill was gone. Below me stretched nothing but a soft expanse of white, endless and kind. The air was cool, but not cold. It carried the faint scent of rain that never seemed to fall. Now and then, I thought I saw something move within the mist. Shapes, maybe, or shadows that never resolved into form. They drifted gently, like thoughts too shy to become words. When I stopped to listen, I could almost hear them whispering, though it sounded more like the echo of my own thoughts than voices from outside. The stairs curved slightly, bending toward the horizon in a slow spiral. Each step ahead shimmered faintly, leading higher into light that pulsed with a soft rhythm. It didn't feel like climbing anymore, more like floating upward with purpose. Even gravity seemed to have grown uncertain of its duties here. I reached out once, half expecting to touch air, but my hand brushed something that felt like fabric made of light. A break in the mist revealed what looked like a doorway ahead. It wasn't part of the stairs. It hovered to one side, made of wooden beams so old they seemed almost transparent. Through it, I saw the faint outline of a room, quiet and waiting. A table, a single chair, and a window that opened onto more clouds. It felt impossible and ordinary at the same time. I stepped off the staircase and into the doorway. The floor beneath me felt real again. Rough planks that creaked softly. A faint warmth came from somewhere unseen, as though sunlight had decided to stay behind. I walked to the table and found a single piece of paper resting there. There were no words on it, only a small drawing, a spiral staircase disappearing into a cloud. I held it up to the light. The lines glowed faintly, and for a moment I thought I saw movement within them, like a reflection, but slower. Then the page folded itself once, twice, and drifted upward toward the open window. It passed through the glass as though it wasn't there, and vanished into the mist beyond. When I turned back, the room was already fading. The doorway dissolved next, leaving only the staircase once more. It waited for me, unchanged, patient. I took another step upward, feeling the faint hum return beneath my feet. For a moment, I wondered if the room had ever been there at all. But the faint scent of old paper lingered in the air, so I decided not to question it. The staircase curved gently upward, its steps now faintly translucent. Light seemed to flow through them, bending and scattering like water moving over glass. Each time I lifted my foot, the air shimmered in slow ripples before steadying again. There was no sound, no horizon, only layers of brightness and mist folded together. I began to wonder if I was climbing through the sky or through my own reflection of it. Now and then, a soft glimmer appeared in the clouds beside me. Shapes floated there, pieces of landscape maybe, or fragments of something remembered. I saw a stretch of shoreline, a lamp glowing faintly in a window, the outline of a tree bending in the wind. They appeared for a breath, then drifted apart again, dissolving into color. It felt like walking past forgotten dreams that had found a place to rest. The air grew warmer for a time, and I noticed faint patterns forming beneath my feet. Swirls and markings like handwriting half erased. They changed with each step, rearranging themselves in quiet rhythm. I tried to read them, but every time I focused, they shifted into something else. Not words, not pictures, just meaning without form. It was strangely comforting, like hearing a story you once knew but can't quite recall. I stopped to rest, though I wasn't tired. Looking down, the staircase stretched endlessly below me, fading into a soft glow. Somewhere deep within it, I thought I saw a flicker of motion, a figure maybe, climbing far beneath. It was too distant to tell if it was me or someone following the same path at a different time. Either way, it was moving slowly, peacefully. A breeze swept past, carrying with it a faint sound, not music, not speech, but something in between. It reminded me of chimes heard underwater, a melody that forgot to end. The clouds shifted with it, revealing another doorway, this one suspended higher up. I didn't rush toward it. The staircase itself felt like a conversation, and I wanted to listen. When I did reach the doorway, it wasn't a room this time, just a small landing surrounded by air. A single lantern hung there, swaying slightly though there was no wind. Inside it burned a flame the color of dawn, slow and golden. As I passed beneath it, the light dimmed, then grew brighter, pulsing once, twice, like a heartbeat acknowledging my presence. Then it went still again. I took another breath and kept climbing. The mist thickened above, glowing faintly blue now. I couldn't tell if I was ascending or if the sky was slowly bending down to meet me. Either way, I was surrounded by calm, that rare kind that doesn't ask for stillness, only attention. And so I climbed on, not searching for the top, but for the sound of my own footsteps disappearing into the clouds. The next stretch of the staircase felt different. The steps were wider now, their edges lined with faint strands of light that curved gently toward the mist. When I stepped on them, they gave off a soft sound, not quite a note, more like a sigh. It felt less like I was walking and more like I was being carried. The higher I went, the more the clouds began to glow from within, as if they were lit by something vast and patient. Shapes began to appear again, clearer this time. They hung in the air beside me, small scenes suspended in color. A field of golden grass rippling in slow wind. A narrow bridge over still water. A hand holding a paper lantern. Each image floated for a moment before breaking apart into gentle motes of light that drifted upward and vanished. It didn't feel like I was remembering them exactly. More like they were remembering me. Each fragment passed close enough to stir a feeling, not joy or sadness, but something softer, like recognition. It made me wonder how much of the world we carry without realizing it, folded into the quiet corners of thought. Here, those corners had simply learned to breathe. I reached another landing, this one bordered by clouds that moved in slow, circular motion. At its center stood a pool of water no larger than a dinner plate. The surface was smooth and mirrored the sky above perfectly. When I looked into it, I didn't see my reflection. I saw the staircase, the same one, stretching upward into infinity. The image rippled as if disturbed by a breath. Then, one by one, the steps began to vanish from the reflection, starting from the bottom and moving upward. The closer the top came, the slower the ripples grew, until only the pool remained, calm, unbroken, and whole. When I looked up again, the staircase above me seemed brighter than before, glowing softly in rhythm with my heartbeat. The air felt lighter now, almost thin enough to see through. I started climbing again. This time, I felt a gentle resistance, not against me, but within the air itself. as though the climb was being noticed. The clouds seemed to turn toward me as I moved, their soft folds opening like curtains to let me pass. Far off in the distance, a faint glimmer appeared, the outline of something vast and bright. I couldn't tell if it was the end or simply another beginning. A breeze drifted past, carrying a few faint words I couldn't understand. They sounded like a memory half-formed, familiar but impossible to hold on to. I let them pass, trusting that whatever they meant wasn't meant to be known, only felt. And with that quiet sense of permission, I took another step into the light. The staircase hummed once, softly, as if in agreement. The steps grew narrower the higher I went. They weren't fading exactly, more like becoming part of the air itself. Each one appeared only when I reached for it, a shimmer taking shape just in time for my foot to rest. There was no fear, no rush, only the strange calm that comes when you stop expecting the ground to hold you. The clouds had thinned into strands of light, curling like slow-moving smoke. Everything around me had gone quiet again. Not empty, just full of stillness. It pressed gently against my skin, soft and constant, the way deep water might feel. When I breathed, the air tasted faintly of rain and something older, the scent of open sky after a storm. It felt familiar, like I'd been here before in another dream. I noticed faint trails of light moving through the mist. They drifted upward in spirals, brushing past my hands and shoulders before fading. Each one carried a faint hum, a note so low I could only feel it, not hear it. The sound gathered quietly in my chest until it felt like I was humming too, without realizing it. The rhythm matched the climb. Far above, the glow deepened into gold. The air shimmered with warmth, and though I couldn't see the source, I knew I was getting closer to something vast. Not an ending, but a stillness large enough to hold one. The steps beneath my feet began to blur together, no longer separate, more like one continuous surface gently rising. It felt less like walking and more like being lifted. My body felt weightless, my breath effortless. I looked down once more, expecting the path below to vanish into nothing. But instead, I saw what looked like stars, countless small points of light glowing through the haze. They pulsed faintly, as though breathing in time with one another. For a moment, I thought they might be all the places I'd ever been, shining softly to remind me they still existed. The thought comforted me more than I expected. I turned back upward, and the next step brought me into light so bright it seemed to have forgotten color. The air hummed louder now, but not harshly. It was the sound of everything existing at once, perfectly balanced. In that glow, I could just make out faint outlines, maybe wings, maybe waves, maybe the edges of dreams folding into one another. And for a heartbeat, I felt myself pause, not to look, but to listen. There was nothing left to climb toward, because the climb had become the destination. The light steadied around me. Every trace of movement slowed until even the air felt asleep. I took one last breath and let the sound of it dissolve into the hum. It echoed softly for a moment, then disappeared into the brightness. And in that quiet, I finally understood. Some journeys don't end above or below. They end everywhere at once. When the light began to fade, it didn't grow darker, only softer. Like dawn deciding to rest for a while before beginning again. The staircase was gone, Or maybe it had finally become invisible, blended perfectly into the air. There was no sense of height or distance anymore, only a slow, floating stillness that felt like being suspended inside a sigh. I realized then that I hadn't moved in some time. The clouds around me shimmered faintly with color, not white or gray, but tones that couldn't quite be named. They shifted like light on glass, bending and folding across each other in gentle motion. Each time I blinked, the shapes rearranged, forming faint patterns that vanished before I could understand them. It was strange and somehow perfect, the feeling of meaning that didn't need to be known, just being enough to fill the space. Somewhere within the brightness, I thought I saw movement. Figures, or maybe reflections, drifting slowly upward and away. They moved without sound, their outlines soft, their presence calm. They weren't strangers exactly, but not familiar either. They were just part of the quiet, as I was now. A breeze passed through, though there was nothing here to stir. It brushed lightly against my face, carrying a scent I couldn't quite place, like the memory of rain long after it's fallen. The air moved through me as though I'd become part of it, weightless, balanced, awake, and dreaming all at once. It felt like an exhale that never ended. Below, the stars still shimmered through the haze. They looked closer now, as if the distance between them had folded in. I thought about all the steps that had carried me here, each one dissolving the further I climbed, until there was nothing left but the act of moving itself. That seemed right. Not every path leads somewhere. Some are simply made to be walked until the walking becomes the sky. A faint vibration pulsed through the air, low, steady, endless. It wasn't sound or silence, but something between them, a rhythm so soft it could only be felt. And then, for the briefest moment, it matched the beat of my heart. I don't remember when the two became one. I only remember the feeling of being held by something infinite and kind. And then, nothing at all. So here's where the story ends, as you lie asleep, whisked away by thoughts and dreams. The climb has quieted, the clouds have settled, and the soft hum of the air has faded into stillness. You don't need to remember where you began. You've already arrived, here, in the calm space between one breath and the next. There's no need to hold on to anything now. The staircase remains, but only in the gentlest sense, a rhythm of steps echoing faintly in your breathing. Each inhale, each exhale, another step upward into quiet. You're lighter now, unhurried, resting in the slow pulse of peace that fills the night. Even the clouds have grown drowsy, folding themselves into the shape of sleep. Let them drift where they will. The world below has gone silent, rivers slowing, trees swaying in half-dream, stars blinking through the hush. Everything has found its own version of stillness, its own way of letting go. And now you've found yours. There's no edge to this moment, no beginning or end. Just an endless stretch of calm that hums softly beneath the quiet. If you listen carefully, you might still hear traces of the story echoing somewhere deep within the clouds. Not words, just impressions. A step, a sigh, a single note of light fading into air. Let those sounds fade too. You've climbed far enough. Now it's time to rest. Let your thoughts wander wherever they want to go. They'll find their way back on their own. The night is wide and kind, and somewhere above, the staircase still rises, carrying dreams upward to places beyond remembering. The glow of it lingers just long enough to guide you into sleep. Then even that begins to fade, soft as a final breath. No more climbing now. Only floating, breathing, resting. Only peace.